All right. So we pose this question. I'm sorry, we are in the middle of page Chavhei, the third paragraph on that page, beginning with the word umnum. Having introduced, reiterated what it says in what we learned in previous Maimer, that in atzilus there are in fact two inyonim. There is that which is Gili HaHelam, which is totally representative of the source of the higher madriga, of the atzmius, of Ein Sof. And then there is that which is the Keli, which is part of the world of atzilus. This is the principle of Oyer B'Kli. And then, starting in this Maimer, we have actually discovering another notch to this. That in fact, the Pasuk says, "HaChochmah me'ayin timotzei," which implies that chochmah is a new presence. It's like you find something from nothing. It's a new presence. It's not something which is you're revealing that which is already there. So the implication in the pasuk chochmah me'ayin timotzei, the term chochmah refers to not just the keli chochmah, it refers the oil and the keli together. The chochmah as it is present in the world of atzilus, and this is me'ayin timotzei. But according to what we have finished explaining, that the oil is as in fact gvul. It comes from the kava that comes from the oilins of lifnei tzimtzum. In other words, there is an element that lifnei tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means that this was already contracted for the purpose of revelation. It is not in its essential state. When you say that this oil is actually a draw from the oil of lifnei tzimtzum, then it has the element of gvul, as we explained yesterday. Gvul means it has no boundaries, it has no beginning as to what it stands for. In a pshitus manner. That is the oil as we explained in the previous Maimer. But how does it then, the Pasuk, include that in the general description of chochmah, that me'ayin timotzei? That is like a find that comes from nowhere, which means it is a new presence
who tells us
at the worldly level.
Who tells us,
I'm sorry?
who tells us that this is what the pasuk means? That it means also the Be'er HaChochmah?
Because the word chochmah, the kriya chochmah, without the oil, is not chochmah.
So when it says chochmah me'ayin timotzei, it must mean both aspects.
Right. If you say there's a human being, and you're going to be talking about his body or his soul, or you're talk the union
right,
between them.
I got you. Okay, got it.
Umnum yesh lemer. However, what can be an explanation to this dilemma is shegam ha'oirois, there's a shviris hanim shochim min hakav, that even the oirois of the shviris that are actually drawn from the kav. You already know by reference, the kav means that this is an oil that is in a narrow line. It is not the oil in a quote unquote the natural spread as it comes from the Yetzer. It was a tzimtzum, and now it is funneled, so to speak, in a narrow manner. This is called the kav. But this oil of the kav, even though it's funneled, it is still the same oil that existed before. It is a draw of the same of the oil inside in a funneled manner. And the oils of the atzilus are drawn from that oil of the kav. So we're saying that the oils of the atzilus that are an image from the kav, and the kav truly is representative. This is the oil that precedes the tzimtzum, which means essentially this represents an oil inside. Nevertheless, the oils that are nimsha from the kav, ein rotzo leimer. We do not mean to say shehem pshutim legamri, that these oils are totally pshutim. Pshutim means, the word poshut means simple. What does simple mean? Just like in our parlance. There are things that need to be explained. And things that you say, isn't it this way? Isn't this obvious? Obvious does not mean obvious that you look at it and then you see it. Obvious means that the whole question doesn't exist. It is not obvious to a discerning mind, a discerning eye. It is so self-real, so self-substantiating that the question itself doesn't even arise. That's mean pshutim. The oilas are pshutim that come from the kav. Nonetheless, we're saying that the oilas are nimsheh from the kav, even though the kav is the oishel lifnei hatzimtzum, and the oishel lifnei hatzimtzum is clearly absolutely pshuposhut. There is not a question of where this oil comes from. It does not come from. This is the reflection of the reality of the atzilus, of the atzilus reality. So we're saying the atzilus that are nimshach from the kav, we don't mean to say that they are poshut legamri, k'moi pshitus ho'irisof mamash, comparable and on par with the pshitus of the oil inside. I'd like we should have a little bit of a reference, a means of reference. The most all-encompassing aspect of oil and of reality that we have, that we can refer to at our level, is the principle of Odom shein lebayis ein leodom. The Gemara says, Odom that has no bayis is not an Odom. Why is it not an Odom? So we explained. Take a little step, a side step here. We have to remember, Odom is the principle for this whole creation. Without Odom, this creation is totally insignificant, has no significance, has no presence whatsoever. Why not? It's present. There's rocks, there's animals. Why not? The answer. What is a presence? What is a reality? The motivation, the godly reality. Anything lacking that reality is a non-entity. Anything that its presence is without significance, without meaning, without representation of this reality is a non-entity. The world without the human being is exactly that. When the human being came on the scene, the world came to life. The world assumed a position of meaning or reality. Therefore, when it comes into the world, in order that this human being is meant to be in the world, for him to be in the world, he has to actually occupy a given place in the world, a part of the world. Then he is a present. He is present. Therefore, Adam she'ein le Beis, ein Adam. He is not the Adam in the full-fledged definition of Adam. The definition of Adam, we put it in blunt terms, is not for what he is, but what he is there to accomplish.
So the first part of your explanation, you were saying that anything that's not
anything that does not have a representation, does not have a direct connect to the reality of the world, the motor issue, has no significance in its presence.
How is that connected to Adam Shem or Bias, Adam?
So, okay. So Adam is the primary being in the world. And he brings this motivation into the world. How?
To being in the world.
What?
To being in the world.
But he has to bring it into the world. He is not bringing it into the world inadvertently. Okay, I see what's missing here. We said recently that when you invite guests to the Chassidus, each guest will have a place, a seat, and each guest will be served individually. Serving your guests in a buffet style, when everyone has to go and take food for themselves, is not respectful, is not representative of the Indian that, yeah, these are your guests. People are there, they have to eat, so there's food to eat. I guess you don't tell them, oh, there is food to eat. Everything that is around him, that his presence is directly accommodating to him. His place, his plate, his food, and so on. That way you're expressing the fact that, yes, he belongs here. Like I mentioned many times. Somebody comes to a wedding, and in a wedding, you have the smorgasbord, you have food galore. Nobody's going to be missing if you come in with uninvited and eat some food. Nobody's going to have any tightness. But there's a fundamental difference between an invited guest and an uninvited guest. In what way? The uninvited guest, he partakes of what there is. The invited guest belongs there. He is part of the simcha. Without him, the simcha cannot take place. It's part of the building block of the simcha. The human being is of that caliber in the world. And the principle that he affects the world is not in some kind of peripheral manner. He comes into the world, becomes part of the world, and thereby the world itself recognizes his presence. And its whole face changes. Once a human being came into the world, the world is no longer a free-for-all. You come to a piece of property as who does it belong to? What do you mean who belongs to? It's part of the world.
That's the world becoming significant because it's connected to the motivation, because the Adam is intentionally.
The reason that Adam has that quality, that he can own part of the world. Own part of the world. Every animal partakes of the world. Is because, in fact, he is a representative. The representative of God in the world. God gave him the right. He's an invited guest. The right to be here. Which means that his place in this world is defined according for him. Which means AyinBase. He has his own home, his own place where he lives.
And that relates to we came and refreshed that because we sang. What's that showing us? What's that saying from inside?
So, being that his presence in the world is a reality, and he has to, this is brought in for the purpose to understand the difference of the oiris is pshutim, but not pshutim legamri k'mei hoyer inside.
Yeah.
So I started explaining that Adam, the human being, has a pshitistic presence in the world. To the extent that Adam shein lebayis, any Adam, he doesn't. Any bayis means that his presence in the world is an add-on. He doesn't have a real presence, a pshitistic presence, owning part of the world. Any Adam.
Having the house gives him a pshitistic presence.
In the world, yeah. Having the house gives him a pshitistic presence in the world. No one can come to him and say, "What are you doing over here?" Yes, and what are you doing in here? His answer is not. The answer is not, "I'm not bothering you." No, this is my place. What are you doing over here? This is the principle Adam shein lebayis any Adam. Adam was meant to occupy milu zoretz v'chivshua. Okay, let's follow this through. So the essential presence of this home for the Adam is really pshitus legamri. It's part of the definition of what the human being is. this human being who is occupying this home is a human being with all kinds of qualities. He has seichel, he has midas, he has hands and feet, and he has all kinds of different functions, talents. When he enters this home, he will inevitably design this home according to his choices. He will have bookcases, he will have a kitchen and a dining room and a bedroom. He will have all kinds of different things that are also representative of the human being. And they represent the human being in a pshitistic manner. Of course he has to have this, of course he has to have it. Seichel, of course, is represented in the human being. Like we said the other day, the human comfort is also part of the human definition. Because he belongs in this world, therefore he is presented his food in a manner that is easy access. He can eat and drink without soiling his clothes, without effort of feeding himself, without him putting his head, his whole self into the food, but serving it to himself. Retaining, while he has to come onto the world, but he come onto the world at arm's length. He retains his stature, he retains his self-dignity as he is partaking in the world. Which means that all these things also carry the aura of pshitus. It represents a reality, a real presence. Do we see this? Yet, there is a fundamental difference between the pshitus of all the human amenities and the home itself. The home, we say, Odom Shein Beis Einay Odom. A person who does not have a spoon, something is not right. But we don't say Einay Odom. It has to supply some function, some defined function. He needs a spoon, he needs a fork, he needs a knife, he needs a plate, he needs a place. There's a function associated with this pshitus. So while it is pshitus, but it's not comparable to the pshitus of having a home. Just to give us a sense that there could be a pshitus and different levels of pshitus. It is totally pshitus that a human being has to have, I said, a plate and a plate and a spoon and a fork and so forth, and a place where to sit and eat, but doesn't compare to having a home. If a person is in a home, he doesn't have a chair, doesn't have a table, so he has to lean against the wall to eat. He's still in a home. If he eats in the street, then we say doimo lekelev. This is really not human. So this is what the Rabbi is saying. Ein rotzo leimer. Again, the top line of the lesson. Ein rotzo leimer sheim pshutim legamri. The others are pshutim because they come from the kav. We do not mean to say that they're pshutim legamre, they're totally pshutim, k'mei pshutus ha'ein sof mamash, on par with the pshutus of the Ein Sof. But that is not what it means, even though these are oilas of that come from the cup. Sheharei, since that, Oimer, b'Sefer Yitziro, in Sefer Yitziro describing the oiros of atzilus, it says, Es esphires bli ma. Es esphires bli ma means without a definitive presence. Which means it is just bipshitus. Like if you have this cup, yes, what's this cup doing over here? That has a ma. What is its function? Why is it here? That which bli ma means it doesn't have to explain its presence. This part of the reality itself doesn't have to explain itself. So he says, it's eses firis bli ma. Harei, thus we see. Gam k'moi shehem bli ma, even as the oilis are at this level, what's called bli ma, without a mitzias, without a definitive sense, harei hem bebechinas eses firis al koponim. But nonetheless, they have that bechina. That there are 10 distinct spheres. Each one of them is bli ma. What distinguishes one from the other is a big question. But there is some kind of a distinction because we say that there is eses firis. Bli ma. We're kind of contradicting ourselves in the same sentence. So, but we're still saying it like bli ma, it is a pshitus. But it's not perfect pshitus because you say there's 10 spheres. And somehow each sphere is distinct from the other. Just a half a minute. We spoke many times about the difference between a focused light and candlelight and focused light or daylight. In daylight, the entire environment is lit up. Entire expenses is lit up. In focused light, also, you can have a light that lights up the entire environment. In a focused light, it is correct to say it lit up this place, and this place, and this place. In daylight, it is totally incorrect to say that it lit up Crown Street and Cow Street and President Street. These are not three different aspects of light. Therefore, it's not correct to say that there are 10 lights because there are 10 streets. Bli ma. It's not 10.
In daylight.
In daylight. It's one reality that removes darkness and it is just light, and light is automatic everywhere. There's not a spread and there's not an increase in light. Whereas if it's a focused light, a light that's created for the purpose of lighting, let's say when they have these bright projectors that light up and they play ball in the middle of the night. It lights up everything. But the projector is meant to light up everything. every last inch that is lit up is drawing a little bit of light to it. This plate is lit up not because this light plate is up. It's lit up on its own. In daylight, there's no such thing. So this is the meaning of the word Es Spheres Blima. So Blima. But it's Es Spheres. For some reason, somehow you distinguish each from the other. Therefore, it means that these oiles are not pshitus legamri, like the Ein Sof, the oil Ein Sof. Okay, so this is it for this morning. Let's soon continue.
Yeah.